Welcome to the first flip lesson with me, Gavin Allen. Today we're going to look at 4 different theories of acting styles. As all of you at the moment are doing various types of acting with different types of styles, so I thought that's what I'd do today. Give you a bit more background, a bit more theory on people like Leigh, Artaud, Berkoff and Stanislavski. I know you've all done quite a lot of Brecht, so I won't go on about Brecht too much. But hopefully you sit back, take some notes, and then we'll do some more practical work with all these types of theory coming up on the 10th of March. So have a listen to this and see what you think. And obviously we are going to do a questionnaire with regards to what you're about to find out about. Maybe you've known about it already, maybe there's a little bit more you didn't know about. So an assessment on it would be absolutely fantastic for my future. So here we go. As you can see, these are the 4 people we're going to look at today. So the first person we're going to look at today is Stanislavski. As you can see, he developed this in the 20th century at the Moscow State Art Theatre, and his actors used this to create normal characters and portray them kind of like as real as possible, really. And this was done not to be confused with the actual method style of acting, which we will talk about briefly at the end of this recording. It's a very interesting style, and you probably see this quite a lot in various films, in various theatre. It's all very natural, and which what most actors really try to get. And it just please don't confuse it with the method acting. So how did actors actually use this? An actor actually uses this from his 3 core elements, which you can see in front of you, which are objective, obstacle and method. Now with an objective, it is what the character actually wants. With an obstacle, it is what prevents a character from getting the objective. And then there is the method, which is what means a character will use to achieve his goals. So there's 3 core elements that the actor needs to discover about a character during any scene, during any line. So this is something that you need to think about as you go through all your dialogue and all your scenes, and actually look at how your character can travel through each element of the piece of theatre that you're doing. So as you will see from the next part very soon. We're now going to look at an objective in more detail now. Basically, an objective is a beat or a bit of a scene or a play, which you can have an objective for an entire play, an objective for each scene and for each line. And this really does help you develop a character and understand the psyche of that character and how they react in certain ways. So for example, we may have pouring of a coffee, then answering a phone call, and then the running out of the house. This could be 3 different types of beats of a scene. Also we've got there the magic if, which is what if the situation happened to me? It helps you connect with the character and not making it a little bit more real. So rather than just impersonating a character, you're able to think like that character. So this is what helps you develop your understanding of a character in absolute minute detail, which is really important when you're acting on stage to understand what's happening to you. We're now going to look at obstacles and method. So we're going to move on to thinking about obstacles. So if I imagine we take that scene with the pouring of the coffee, the phone call and the running out. Imagine if you were then to trip over as you go out. That would be an obstacle. But this therefore will help you prevent the objective from happening, which kind of comes on to is how the character with the method might deal with that obstacle, the falling over. How you might find your way around it. How do you react with that? Or does that character just plunge on regardless? Much of this method kind of lies in with how and why the character chooses a particular response and how they manage to get through those actual moments. Now we're going to look at internal monologues and how Stanislavski got his actors in Russia to internalize their own monologue. I mean, we naturally as human beings have our own thoughts, have our own internal monologues going on a majority of the time, whatever we do, when we're walking down the street, when we're cooking or with friends, something's always going on inside our head. So what he did, he tried to get them to do the same sort of thing with their own character, therefore creating a better understanding. And also, it's not just the script say so, it's because your character say so and thinks that way. It helps also with spontaneity and stops the dullness of an actor on stage doing it from day to day. They can really get to understand how their character reacts in a scene all the time. So it's a really interesting way to kind of create an understanding how your character works in all sorts of situations. Makes it really in depth and quite complex, or make it as complex as you wish. I wanted to very briefly look at method acting, because Stanislavski has a type of method, but not the method acting, which is when an actor completely becomes that character, eats, breathes, sleeps that way. But Stanislavski preferred to have the performer remain separate to understand the motivations. When someone like Marlon Brando became the Godfather and was like him on and off screen for a long period of time, same as Heath Ledger became quite obsessed with the Joker character. Hopefully, this all now makes sense. We're now going to look at another acting style of Berkoff. Stephen Berkoff is actually from London originally, but he did all his training over in Paris with Jacques Lecoq. He really likes what's called total theatre, and likes theatre that is psychological, but and illuminates rather than is depicted or told. He develops a lot of his ideas from Artaud, which we'll look at in a second or two, with a theatre of cruelty. And he really likes the ideologies of Greek mythology and Greek theatre and mask work and so forth. And makes really great physical characters. We now have the 7 levels of tension. This is a process Berkoff uses when he is devising his characters. So for number 1, we have someone who's completely and utterly exhausted and tired, and is like a jellyfish almost, where they've just got no bones and are completely flat and wobbly. They then take the character up to someone who is more laid back, so someone from, for example, from California, where they are very chilled on the beach and got no worries. You then put the character into a neutral state, where there's no story background at all. You then look at how someone can be really alert. So, for example, someone like Mr. Bean is very alert, is also very curious in what he does. We then look at suspense, almost like the melodrama, where something is really, really crazy. And also, you could use the example, is there a bomb? Someone like John Cleese is very good at being suspense in terms of Fawlty Towers. Is kind of like always constantly on the go. We then take it up to the passionate level. So someone in opera can be very passionate about how they sing things, and they're talking really, really loudly and singing very much about how they're in love with people. Also, that the bomb scenario, you could then find out there is a bomb. So, how do you react to that? Then the absolute next one is the tragic. Where the character would be absolutely petrified and the bomb would have actually gone off. So what would happen next? How would you react? Minimal theatre is what Stephen Berkoff kind of really stands for, with examples of the masks, which is quite an interesting technique actors use, and on top of that they only show one type of emotion, but their bodies may have to really emphasise many more, so it's very physicalised. His costumes are very theatrical, and they may appear quite grotesque sometimes and very exaggerated to kind of really emphasise certain details of the character. And it may look like they are self-indulgent in many ways, but that's just something that he really likes. He also uses minimal lighting and to kind of create those atmospheres with those characters to really emphasise his styles. If there's any questions you have about Berkoff style or any other things we've talked about so far, please feel free when I see you on the 10th. Theatre of Cruelty. I thought I'd start with a bit of a sound effect because that's what Artaud uses, is lots of different types of sound effects. He uses various themes to shock and surprise his audience. He's quite a dark character, and he is French, and he really likes to face the fears and look deep into them. He also likes to involve the audience and heightens their emotions as well as the actors, so both audience and actor are experiencing the same type of emotion at the same time. It's very, very shocking in how things can be done in this way, and we are going to experiment with some art of cruelty on the 10th. He uses a lot of these techniques in Marasade, which you'll see some images in a moment or two. The Bard of Bleakness. Yep, Mike Leigh. He's from Salford originally in the UK, and his career spans over 50 years, which is absolutely incredible. He is a very controversial and uncompromising dramatist and filmmaker. He covers lots of issues, for example, the classification of someone, their race, a lot of political politics, and sexuality. And with these combinations all together, it makes for very interesting, dynamic drama. So how does Mike Leigh make these scenes? How does he put these characters together? Well, originally there is no script at all right from the start, and the storyline is developed through large amounts of improvisation, which he works with an actors on a one-to-one sort of basis. And they create a list of people they know or have known, either very close acquaintances or maybe they've met someone who's briefly, but they make a list of 50 or 60 people, and then he whittles them down, and the actor takes out characteristics and the vocals and mannerisms of 4 or 5 chosen people, and then that then creates the character, which then starts to kind of manifest from truth. Therefore, that can make an elaborate alter ego of someone they've met. And then he then fine maps all these sort of things and details, and even to the point of like who their parents were, and what they have for dinner, and whether they like sardines or not. It's really minute details. So yeah, we're going to move on to a little bit more detail on the process of Mike Leigh. Once he's got a group of actors who built up quite a few different kind of characters, he then makes the characters actually meet either initially in rehearsal space, but sometimes he builds up their worlds within a drama studio situation, and then actually takes the actors onto the streets and interacts with the public. Mike Leigh observes from a distance, from afar, and watches how they interact with everybody. This kind of process goes right up even to the point before they shoot a scene, and sometimes even the actors don't know what's going to be happening next or how it happens and who's going to say what. He may even put a one-liner into a character's pocket and say, right, drop this into a scene and see how it changes it, and does that actually live. Someone then sits down and watches these improvisations, and they kind of write the outline of a scene, and an assistant takes notes, and then they take the best bits of those improvisations that they've seen and observed and watched, and then that then helps create the piece of theatre or film. Well, thanks very much for the round of applause there. It's the end of the session now, so you can go and make another cup of tea and go and relax. Really appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing your feedback on Tuesday. Thanks, bye-bye.